My girlfriend cheated on me during the worst period of my life. My girlfriend and I have been together for nearly 8 years. The last 3 years have been very difficult because right at the start of COVID, my mother got diagnosed with cancer, and she passed away in January of this year. This whole period, but especially the month since her passing, I've been less social and outgoing. My girlfriend has always been extremely social and needs me to also spend time with her doing social stuff, which has been hard for me. Since my mom's passing, this has led to social anxiety on my part. 10 days ago, I discovered that my girlfriend has kissed an ex-colleague. She had met up with him for dinner while telling me she was with several ex-colleagues, and at the end of the night when she dropped him off, he took off her glasses in the car prior to kissing her. She had discussed this in a WhatsApp message with another ex-colleague, female, with whom she was spending the weekend away when I read those messages on her WhatsApp account on her computer. She wrote that there were feelings on both sides but that they knew it couldn't work, he's got a wife with a baby on the way. She wrote something along the lines of head and heart. After I informed her that I found out, she has initially been apologetic, and desperately wants to try to make it work by going to therapy etc. Claiming that she's committed for the long term to making it work again, rebuilding trust, helping me feel better again, as I was already in a hole due to my mom's passing as well as my anxiety, but this has the potential to push me to new depths. She told me that they had been spending a lot of time together since she left her previous job, and that he made her feel good. That when she was leaving, he confessed his feelings to her, but that she didn't plan to do anything with those. She says that the night they kissed, she went there with the intention to see if they could continue being friends. I have no way of knowing whether there is more to the story. Whether they did more than just kiss. Whether there are other things she hasn't told me. I've thought about all this. I also told her that I want his girlfriend to be informed, and she completely lost it, stating that I had nothing to do with them and that I can't destroy a family like that. I even told her that for the mother's sake, I would wait until the baby was born, but that I felt that, just as I had to experience the pain of finding out by myself, he also needed to feel the pain of having his girlfriend find out. After all, he's the one doing that to her. And she needs to know what kind of man she's with, something that she may otherwise never find out. My girlfriend's reaction on me stating that this was something I needed if we were going to continue together, tells me that she is more concerned with what that would do to him than with my feelings. We've had several mostly wonderful years together, and even during these sometimes tough last years I felt like she was the one for me. Even though we've both been very lonely for a while, in our own ways. But I never would have expected her to betray me the way she did. The fact that I had to find out myself is almost too much to bear, but the way she now behaves, the way she now tries to defend him, she says that she's thinking about the mother and the future child, but if that was the case I feel that she would agree if I informed his child's mother after the child is born. Under what circumstances could there be trust and hope for a future together again? Should my girlfriend accept my need for the guy's girlfriend to be informed? Comment. First of all, I'm sorry for your loss. Let me start by saying I went through something similar with my ex-fiancé. Anyways, first of all, you do inform your girlfriend, that as soon as the baby is born that you will inform the wife. If she is having problems with this, tell her you hope she is a good stepmom to her co-worker's kid. I would also get in contact with said co-worker and ask if he needs to find a third mom for his child also. If she isn't okay with this ultimatum, I don't think there is much to save anyways. As nice as I once was, getting cheating on made me a bit of an asshole, so I also would tell her that you were planning to propose in the near future. If you want to work on repairing the relationship, I wish you luck, but after the trust is broken there is sometimes no coming back. Especially in such a traumatic time in your life. This is her response: cheating. Come on, and don't get started with the "it was just a kiss." There are feelings involved, and if her co-worker would have been single, you might be single now. Besides the two of them, nobody will ever know what really has happened. Personally, I couldn't get that thought out of my head and would dump her. You can try therapy and I wish you luck, but my points to her would be to inform the wife after the baby is born, of course, no contact with coworker, and she has to work big time to win your trust. Also, I hate those comments about you neglecting her. If she felt that way, she should have talked to you and not look for validation somewhere else, especially after almost 10 years together. Everyone has up and down during a relationship, but they should be there for each other's. Running to someone else for attention because or so is going through something is not a solid relationship. I suggest you do go to therapy for your own issues. This will help you deal with your mom's death and this and any relationship. I would also screenshot the conversation between her and the guy. Yes, she needs to know what he did. I'm sure it's not the first time he cheated. I would not trust your GF due to her actions of cheating and how she was more concerned with what would happen to him. I have also been with my partner for 8 years. He cheated on me a few years back and we broke up and got back together. The trust and love was not the same for me than it was in the beginning, but I chose to move on. Since then he proposed and I found out a few months back he had cheated again. Regretfully, I also cheated BC of the lack of attention I got while he was, although I did not know what he was doing at the time. Sorry, long intro. But the trust is also completely gone for me, as probably for him. And I'm not sure that will ever regain for myself, TBH, as it's been too many times now. All I can say is you just have to both really work through it and together to build the trust, but it can take years for that. It's just a decision on whether or not you want to put that work in and try to move past it. I agree with letting the other women know, as she does have a right. And if your girlfriend was so worried about you ruining the family, she should have thought about that before doing what she did. She should have shut it down long before it turned into something. I don't want you to feel like what happens between them is on you, as it isn't. Next story 2. My GF and I broke up yesterday and we don't know how to move forward. We live together. My GF and I have been together for nearly 3 years. The first 2 years were great, and we moved in together after the first year. I felt comfortable being myself around her almost instantly, and we have very similar personalities, senses of humor, interests, and in general it just seemed like we were meant for each other from the get-go. A few months after we made it official, we did have a slight rocky stretch where she didn't know if she truly wanted a relationship. She was still pretty young when we started seeing each other and when I asked her to be my GF, whereas I was already in my mid-20s and began to feel ready to settle down. After a few weeks of soul searching, she decided I was who she wanted, and other than that, the first 2 years were generally great. We frequently went on dates, we were intimate both emotionally and physically. I couldn't really ask for much more. Fast forward to us moving in together. The first few months were still great, but then our relationship began to go downhill. We had several conversations about the issues about 6 months ago, nothing changed, and we've both since pretty much ignored the issues and have been on autopilot. These are the major issues. I'm a homebody, and other than going to the gym, I prefer to spend my time at home, and it's socially exhausting for me to be constantly going out / spending time away from home, whereas she is very extroverted and wants to routinely do things together outside of home. In her eyes, we've grown stagnant, and I wouldn't disagree. That is issue 1. The intimacy very rapidly began to decline to the point where I'd say in the last year, we haven't been much more than roommates. No compliments or words of affirmation, no flirting, no emotional intimacy in general. We've talked about this, and I have a high libido, and she has said that she has a low libido and she doesn't see that changing or know how to change that. This lack of intimacy, both emotional and physical, has been issue 2. Our emotional connection and communication has significantly decreased as well. I'm pretty neutral emotionally, and I don't really feel my emotions or how I'm feeling is worth sharing, generally. I just don't feel like anyone would be interested in hearing I felt fine today, nothing out of the ordinary. Maybe this is just me having a somewhat negative self-esteem, but I just don't feel it's worth sharing. But my GF is extremely emotional and wants me to regularly tell how I'm feeling, and on the flip side she constantly expresses her emotions to me. Likewise, I don't generally share things unless they are out of the ordinary. She wants me to communicate with her, even if it's something as simple as my day went well today, nothing out of the ordinary happened. She tells me how her day went each day, every day, and I'll admit it has begun to get to the point of being somewhat overwhelming for me as someone who isn't a huge communicator. This has been issue 3. There are a few other issues here and there, but these have been the 3 major issues. We recently went to a couples event with some friends and I think it hit both of us. We have been together for 3 years, we both don't really know what we are doing, we are getting to the age where many of our friends are getting married, if they aren't already, and we don't currently see a long-term future together. We talked 2 nights ago and laid it all on the table. We both pretty much agreed that there are a lot of positives in our relationship, however there are some core needs that we both have that we haven't been suiting for one another for the last year plus. We agreed that many of these needs would probably require the other person to fundamentally change who they are, which wouldn't be fair for either of us, and we decided to break up. I'll admit that I've seen the writing on the wall for probably the last year, but I really struggle to address difficult and/or awkward situations. With this said, I still love her and it has finally sunk in for me that it's over. It really didn't sink in until late last night. Again, I'm pretty emotionally neutral guy and I can honestly say that the only times I've showed true emotion in the last 4 to 5 years were when my grandparents died, I cried. On the positive end, a while back I spent almost a year of my life away from home to instruct a work class, and when the class finally graduated, I was elated, extremely happy, and proud of them. Other than that, I'm almost always pretty neutral, but it hit me late last night and I broke down crying, and I can say that I'm hurting pretty bad right now. She's hurting even more than me. What makes this suck so much and what's making it so hard on both of us is the fact that we didn't break up because there has been abuse, because one of us cheated, because it's toxic, or because we don't get along. We broke up because there's a few core needs that we aren't having satisfied and we just don't currently see a future together, but we still both love each other. The fact that we still live together hasn't really offered any closure, either. Part of me feels that if we both tried one more time and put full effort into the relationship, we could make it work. On the other hand, I know some of the things we both need would almost certainly require the other to change who they are as a person, which isn't a fair ask. Neither of us think that the issues that are lacking in the relationship is a flaw in the other person, it's who each of us are, but we both still have our specific needs in a relationship. We concluded our conversation the other day by agreeing we need to break up, but beyond that, we still don't know how to move forward given that we live together. We agreed we should each have our own separate sleeping/living areas, but we still have a lot of shared spaces as well. We agreed that we both need to start looking for other living arrangements, but we don't know what boundaries to set, and when one or both of us need to be moved out by. This was a new city for us when we moved in, so we don't have any friends either of us could crash with, and our families live a long ways away, so we don't really have a choice but to continue to live together while we sort things out. I guess I don't know exactly what I'm looking for in posting this. A lot of it is just to vent, but I also would really appreciate any feedback or advice from anyone who may have went through a similar situation before. How do ex-couples, who still feel strongly for each other, go about living together while sorting out how to move apart? Comment. I was in a super similar situation. Broke up with a girl I lived with, but we had 11 months left on the lease. No major fight or anything ended the relationship, just a mutual thing like what happened to yous guys. After a week of being sad, we both kinda just moved on and became really good friends and roommates. Dated other people and lived separate lives the same way with any other roomie. It was a pretty cool time. My GF didn't really care. She even met my ex/roomie. I was in another situation a few years later where I broke up with a girl I lived with and she had to stay for a few weeks before her new place was ready. We both went on a ton of dates in that period and I think only one girl I was talking to cared. Overall, it's not as big of a deal as I would have assumed. I was definitely honest about it with everyone. She's still one of my best friends to this day. I think you'll definitely be able to maintain a platonic relationship. Good luck.